And then that way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this recording. And then I'll give it to the people who signed up but couldn't make it today. Yes. Okay. So my grammar is in English is never good, but my winning ideas are always good. No matter what.
Yeah, please don't worry. A lot of people living here doesn't good with grammar either. So
that was perfect. So the reason why I called it the ABC is for absolute best chances. So one thing is to compete and just like to compete just to compete, right? And then have like the will to compete and the will to win. Like you have the hopes that you're gonna win, and then but most people have like they just don't have a strategy. Like in my experience, I've noticed that people just don't have a strategy. And now what I'm going to do is have you guys go on this like journey with me, like where you understand how to build a strategy that is like in the littlest time that you have, you're going to use it to make your best chances. Like you're going to be so focused, like so laser focused on just doing the things that are gonna get you there, and not do the rest of the stuff that is just that we usually do for competition. So that's the reason why, like, I called it the absolute best chances of winning competition. So my preposition, I'll just fix it once I Google it and then see what's up with that. Okay, so the very, very first thing that we gotta do, I don't know about you guys, how many of you guys have competed before? I noticed that Pam, you're on the chat. Well, oh, actually, I can't see the chat right here, but you guys can see the chat. You guys can probably read the chat when Pam talks. So, Koa, you've competed before, right?
yes, then it's weird because when I do choreo for competition, I think that the pro competition choreo easier to create compared to the amateur due to all the restriction with amateur competition.
Yeah, I think that you just gotta focus. We'll talk about that, but definitely competition in general is harder because it cuts your creativity in a lot of ways, because you have to adjust to a criteria, right? So, and that's one thing that I want to tell you guys. Like, first, we have to change our minds to get the results we want. We can't think of competition the way we think of as for a performance. We can't just go and then be like thinking, oh, if I rehearse a lot, if I work very hard and I rehearse 7 hours a day, and then I just come up with like this amazing choreography, and I've worked so hard that of course I'm going to win. That's not how it works. What you got to do is start with the end in mind, meaning you have to reverse engineer what you're going to do. So everything has to be reverse engineered. So in that case, you spoke about restrictions. It's important to know what restrictions you have, so that way you start going from those restrictions, you start building everything, not only the choreo, because choreo is only a part of the criteria. It's only one criteria out of at least 7. And at the most, there's competitions like the World Latin Dance Cup. That one is 11 criteria thingies. And the Salsa Summit, no, the regular summit is 7. And so is Eurozone. So just one out of all of them is a choreography. So imagine, like, so we can't be thinking choreography as the end of it all, but we do have to understand, we have to be tweaking the choreography. You'll see what I mean. Like, you got to start with the end in mind. And then, and this also means that, that we have to think right now. We have to plan, like today. If I want to get there, what do I have to do right now? And then what do I have to do in 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and in 4 weeks, and what can happen in between? And I mean, everything. We have to plan way, way ahead and structure, and then organize. And I'll teach you guys how to do that. But the idea is that your mindset has to be different. I hope that if you're coaching people, I hope that all your students are method driven. Like in the Bay Area, I see that that's a huge advantage that you guys have, because there's so many scientists there, that is going to be very easy for you guys to get people onto this kind of mindset. Because a mindset that usually dancers have is one that is about letting everything, like procrastinating everything. We procrastinate on the picking of the outfits. We procrastinate on buying the shoes, procrastinate on buying the flights, procrastinate on all that stuff, procrastinate on rehearsing full on, procrastinate on doing last minute changes. I mean, it's just like ridiculous. And then that like builds, it's just a bad strategy. So we got to change that in mind. And that's it. The second thing is like one thing that we got to change our minds. When we change our minds, then our actions are going to be different, and then we're going to have the best chances to win the competition, because we're just going to be like a machine that doesn't feel, is only like thinking, and it's only executing. It's in a smart way that is like a winning machine. It's not a thing that like, that feels and just lets, flies with the wind and just goes like, yeah, let's see. Competition is not about just like, I'll just, let it flow. No, that's not how it goes. Competition is about like making everything like smart, in a smart way, making a strategy and going for the point. Competition is athleticism. Dance competitions are art with athleticism together. So then that's like, that's how we have to change our mind. And then another thing, when I talk about practice, it on its own doesn't make perfect. What I mean is that we have to understand that there's more things than practicing that are going to go into you winning the competitions. There's going to be attitudes. There's going to be, attitudes most of the time. And there's going to be like actions that you need to schedule. You need to schedule a lot of things, not only practice, because practice is not what's going to make you win. You need to like attack it in very different fronts. And I'll talk about that later. But basically, the first thing is that we have to change tracks. You know how we usually, let's say that we see people who have won a competition. And we're like looking at them and we think, oh, if I just copy whatever they're doing in terms of choreography, and I rehearse a lot, then that's going to be, that's going to be everything for me to win. And it's not. So, because those people didn't only practice, that was not all they did. Maybe a lot of them don't know what they did, but they did a lot of other things. And this is what I'm going to break down for you guys. But The most important thing is how we see what we need to do. Because if we don't believe that we need to do different things, we're not going to do those things. So we have to first come in with like a higher expectation on ourselves, not in terms of how many hours we'll put in the practice and the rehearsal, but more like we have to have a higher standard, or like we have to have a expectation for us to put in more of us than just the time that we put in inside of the studio. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Or if it works, it's going to be like one time, perhaps, but it's not going to last, because maybe if you win and all you did was just practice, and most likely is because there was nobody else, or because everyone else was even worse. And that's not how you want to win. Okay. The next thing is we need to do things in an opposite way of what we usually do. So the first thing we got to do is divide our time into at least 4 segments. So for instance, I take that some of you guys are going to compete at Summit. Summit is in January. So January would be, right now is August. We would have September, October, November, December, January. So that's like 5 months, but in reality, it's only 4. So then at least you can like divide it into four months or 4 sections, right? And each section has its own activities. And then the next thing that we got to do, because usually what people do is that they just start rehearsing, and then they just start going, rehearse, choreograph, rehearse, clean, this, that, and then at the end, they end up with like something that they're already like, they're rehearsing right before the competition and changing things at the very last minute. And that's not a good strategy. So the first thing we're going to do is divide your time into 4. And then another thing that we need to do is I called it don't leave that loop open. And this is because you know how let me ask you, Koa, what are you in tech as well? Just like BP?
Not really. I'm in logistics, so it's half labor, half tech-ish.
Okay, there's a thing, Toyota, the Toyota got this, they revolutionized this, the quality control systems back in the 80s, I believe, by doing cleaning up, or like closing the loop in each process. So what they did is that production lines, like they used to have, for instance, like Ford, you would have your Ford automotive, the Ford factory. And then they would build a car, and they will build it. And then in the end, they would check, and then they would take the rejects, right? But then you notice that then there was going to be a lot of recalls. There was a lot of recalls, and people would be like, oh, if you have like this is what happened to me. If you have an F-150 of this year, bring it back to the factory, because that the wheel is gonna like blow up or whatever, So, and that was like an open loop kind of process. And that's kind of like the way we do competition. Now, when Toyota came into the picture, they created this thing where every process in every station they would check. So they would come in the first station, between the first station to the second station, they would check, and then they would get the rejects back. And then only the good ones would pass. Then they would fix whatever the rejects were, and then they will pass them to the next station. So by the end, that's how they came up with the 6 Sigma, because it was 1 out of a million errors. So then that's how come Toyota got to create this like amazing machine that was just always working, right? And it's what the processing that they use is called is a closed loop processing. And so what we're going to do is close the loop in every station. So if I'm talking about 4 stations that you're going to have, or 4 sections, you're going to make sure that you start and finish, and then you test in both, and then you like course correct, so that by the end of the 3rd section, you're already ready to go, and then you're just gonna clean up. You're not gonna be like facing the very last day, of the competition. So this is how, like, nobody has done this, nobody does it this way, and therefore everybody's like all over the place. And people who win competitions constantly, whether they know it or not, this is what they do. They close every loop in every section. Some people I know, they even do it every single practice that they do. Every single practice, they wrap it up. They reflect on what is it that they gotta change and whatever, and then they plan for the next rehearsal. So that's how much you can do it. But we're gonna just keep it in 4 sections. Okay. Now, in the first segment, what you're gonna do is I gave it a duration of 6 weeks, because the first 2 weeks we're gonna be thinking about like putting together everything that is needed before we even start rehearsing. So I mean, we can rehearse, but it's not like the important thing is that we're not going to rehearse on like with a specific purpose the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks we're going to use to first read the rules of the competition, and like really like understand what is it that they're going to need. It wouldn't be a bad idea to actually research the judges, research who the judges are. And I mean, there's a lot of competitions where judges are like switched here and there, and then you're not gonna get, for instance, if you're dancing bachata, you're not gonna get bachateros judging you. You might get a lot of salseros, but still, it's not a bad idea to research them. And then even if you can ask them for like what are they looking for in specific areas that you have questions about, it would not be a bad idea. But definitely read the rules, and then don't only read them. Anything that you have questions about, ask the organization. Ask, what do you mean by only 3 tricks? What is a trick? How is a group of tricks work? What is this a trick? Is this not a trick? Is this a flare? Is this not a flare? What happens with this? What happens with that? Like just everything. And you can do this as soon as you should do this as soon as you can. So then you're like laying down a roadmap with for you that it doesn't have any stones in the middle, because the last thing you want is to have to change your thing 2 weeks before class, before the competition, because you just figured out that they have a rule when you already knew that was a competition you were going to. So that's the very first thing. It's happened to me, guys. Like I know about this pain, so I ask you not to skip this step. Then next thing is you're going to make a SWOT analysis on your own group, or if you're going to be dancing on your own, you need to get a SWOT analysis on you. If you're going to get if you're going to do it with a team or the whatever, get a SWOT analysis. Yes, Kwa?
Sorry, you're talking about asking the instructor. You mean like email them, call them directly, or
You can do that, or you can just do it on your own. A SWOT analysis is you just gotta, you have to make an analysis of your strengths and your weaknesses. You have to be realistic about your strengths and your weaknesses. A lot of times, I mean, if you're an instructor, I'm assuming that you can do this first assessment yourself, or otherwise you can just hire a coach, you know, like that will do this for you. But definitely you cannot just go. What I'm trying to say is that starting with not an analysis first is suicide. It's just you just wanting to have the experience of going to competition, and like if the thing is this, if you want to just go into competition to experience it, then you shouldn't be caring about winning a competition. But if you want to win the competition, that means that you're going to make your money's worth. You're going to make your time's worth. You're going to make, like, you're not there just to have fun. You're there. I mean, those times are past for you, you know, you're not there to make friends. You're not there to have fun. You're not there to do anything but win. And if you're there to win, then you got to start super smart about it. And before anything, make a SWOT analysis on you, or on your group, or whoever is, you know, deciding to compete. Then once you have your SWOT analysis, then you're going to, this is going to draw this information to you, like about what you need in terms of how many hours of rehearsal do you need, and also how many hours of training do you need. Because thinking that just with rehearsals you're gonna get there is not gonna get you there. You need your extra time for training, because in this 4 months you need to get your weaknesses to not necessarily completely erased, but you need to make them not push in front of you, because a chain breaks in the weakest link. So you need to strengthen all your links, and you cannot have a weak link. And to do that, you need to have a time for training, and then a time for rehearsing, and then a time for coaching. Like whoever you're gonna decide to bring in to coach you, you need to think about the time that you need for that. So basically what I'm trying to give you guys here is a change of mentality. You can't think of winning a competition just by spending 4 hours a week. Not even, I wouldn't say even 6 hours a week is enough. I think that if you want to win any competition, you need to spend at least 8 hours a week, at least 6 for training, for rehearsals, where nobody misses the rehearsal. Because when people miss a rehearsal, that rehearsal didn't work, or it just gave, you know, like 50% or whatever of what it was supposed to do. And then you need at least 1 hour a week, if not, I think 2, for training, whatever it is that you need. Everybody has different needs. So you need to train that for at least 2 hours a week, you can split it into segments of half an hour per day or 1 hour to twice a week or whatever. And then you need to spend like at least 1 or 2 hours like researching, and then coaching, like getting coaching, or like, you know, interviewing people, or just something that is not you dancing or you practicing or doing that, like even researching, doing you know, for music, or even for ideas, or for inspiration, and for anything, like to get tips from, you know, the professionals, whatever, you know. But you cannot just think of doing winning a competition by rehearsing twice a week, 2 hours. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna make it that way. So with that, that's why I say you have to figure out your schedule for practice and for training and for coaching and everything. So I would, what I do is I get a big old calendar that has all the 4 months ahead. And all the 4 months that I have, or 6 months or whatever, I check what days I'm available. And I have it like so much ahead that I already know that time, like 3 months from now, that Wednesday, I'm going to be rehearsing, or I'm going to be taking a class, or I'm going to be doing this. That's how far ahead you need to be planning. And you need to plan your schedule, like Mondays from 6 to 8, or Wednesdays or whatever. And then you just gotta like open up that space and then be realistic about that. And now make a timeline for payments. That's another thing, because a lot of times, and every time that I'm talking to you guys, you understand where I'm coming from. Like I've done this for so long. I started competing in 2006, and I started competing with a team. I started competing with a partner in 2006. That was a little bit of a nightmare. And then when I started competing with a team, that was a huge nightmare, because the more elements you bring into it, the more variables you have. So if everybody is not on the same page in terms of like understanding how important the practice and then the training and the everything is, and then the payments, then you're going to be dragging, and people are going to be like this. This is one thing that happened to me on 2013. In my pro team, there were a couple of people that were very young, and one of them was just like, you know, had this attitude that he was like, you know, like I don't know, he was just very disorganized, and just had this attitude like as if just because you're so good, you're gonna win. And but then he hadn't bought the ticket for the to go to, I think it was in Miami or in Florida, or somewhere in Florida. It was the competition, and he hadn't bought it. And it was like, seriously, it was 10 days away. The competition was 10 days away. So because of that, he needed to step away from practice, and then he needed to go work. He was like, I'm not gonna come to practice because I need to go work so I can make money to get the ticket for the competition. So you cannot be doing that at the very last minute, because anything that takes away your time is going to be a time that you're not going to be practicing, a time that you're not going to be focusing, you know, anything like that. You got to just take care of it immediately before you step foot in your studio. You need to know, like if you're doing a competition with a team, if it's your students, you just go like, okay, this is how much we're going to pay. Costumes are this much, practices are this much. We have to, we're going to take this plane that is going to cost this much. The hotel is going to cost this much. We're going to pay this much for entrance fees, all this stuff. This is the budget that we have. And you need to tell me when are you going to pay for all of this? So like, it's like, you got to make a payment plan for all this, because you trust me, guys, like this can drag you, and it actually sucks your energy because the time is not there. I mean, it's just a nightmare. I don't know if you guys gone through something similar. I'd like to hear about this. Let me see. Somebody, Pam is she's Katie says, that's so true. I experienced a lot of disorganization in my last team. This is super, super normal. Katie is the core, or there's another, I don't.
Yeah, it's
see.
Katie.
Oh, let me see. Maybe there's, oh yeah. There's Katie. Yeah, Katie, where are you from? What city are you in?
Hi, I'm in San Diego.
Oh, cool. Perfect. Yeah, so this is the thing, like in teams, people just see, this is the situation. It's just people are so eager to compete, and they think that just by practicing you're gonna get there, or just by being, like being very enthusiastic and then having great dancers or whatever, it's just, that's not gonna cut it. That's just not gonna cut it. You need to be organized. And you need to do that on the first week of rehearsals. You need to put together a calendar for payments, a calendar for rehearsals, a calendar for, like, after you've done your SWOT analysis, you need to figure out, like, this is what's going to happen when you get your SWOT analysis. You have a team, then you go like, all of you guys need to work on your flexibility. All of you guys are going to work on your musicality. All of you guys are going to work on your this and that. And give me the times that you're going to be working on that, and then you should provide the training, like outside of your rehearsal. You cannot be doing that during rehearsals, because then in rehearsals, which is the time where you have to put together the whole team or the whole practice of your choreography. And then a lot of times, especially if it's a team, you're going to be needing everybody in, because if one person doesn't show up, then the choreography cannot be finished because of the formation changes. So it's a whole thing. So you need to have figured out your schedules for your practice and for your training, and also your calendar for payments. And then you need to commit in a contract. You need to have a contract with everybody in your team. If it's just you, then you need to make a contract with yourself and, like, seriously, like, write it down. And then in this contract, you gotta add every single thing that I'm talking about. Is like, I commit that on every Tuesday from 6 to 9, I will be in the studio. You put the address, and if I'm late, or I don't bring my shoes, or this and this and this and that, this is gonna be my, like, my consequence, or whatever, a lot of times what I do is that I just end up having, like, people pay a fee for being late, or for not rehearsing, or for not doing their extra activities, or for whatever, and then all that money goes into the team, and then we get to have, something for the competition, right? We buy extra rhinestones or something, I don't know. So you need to make a contract before you start rehearsing. So this can take 2 weeks. I mean, and also the thing is that in this time, you gotta come in the first rehearsal with the song already cut and already decided what you're gonna put in every single section. How are you gonna know this? Well, you already read the rules. So then you need to make sure that your choreography is not just like, oh, like, I'm just gonna wing it and just see what goes. No, like, you need to schedule and then strategize your choreography. You need to strategize your choreography to win. So everything has to be done in a certain way. And for that, you need to cut your music for that, to hit that. To start with, I would strongly recommend that if you're competing in bachata, pick a song that doesn't change the timing, because that's gonna be a nightmare to choreograph and then hit the timing correctly, given that one of the judges knows music and then understands music applied to dance, and then understands that the bachata doesn't stop at 4. So if you have judges that know their bachata, their dance music, they're not going to let you get off the hook by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's not going to work. So if that's the case, then you need to make sure that your timing is correctly. So for that, pick a song that has straight phrasing, that is even phrasing the whole way through. Then cut your music to read the rules, see how many minutes can you do, how many seconds can you do. Try to go as low as possible. Don't try to push as large as possible, because if you push too much to the higher end, you're gonna have to choreograph and clean more. It's better to pack it and just to pack everything into like small amounts, and then just make everything like safe and clean. You know, especially if you don't have a lot of time. And if you guys are competing in Summit, you don't have a lot of time. So it's better to just keep it on the short end. If it says 2 to 2:30, do 2:10. Don't go all the way to 2:30. If it says, 1:30 to 2, do 1:30 or 1:35. Don't go to 2, because, or, like, just don't push it, because, or go 1:40, I don't know, something, but like, don't go to the large bound. Okay. And one very important thing is, before that first segment ends, you need to get your minimal viable product finished. What does that mean? Your choreo from tip to toe in 1 month. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just gotta get it done, the whole thing. It's like you gotta have a map of your choreo. And don't just like mark the moves. You gotta push the whole choreography, learn it, finish it, and just do it and get it done in 1 month. So this is how you finish your first. So for that, I would say you can use 6 weeks to, like, if you start the fastest you can start the faster you can pick and cut your music and get all this other stuff ready, the faster you can start choreographing, and then the faster you can start finishing your choreo. And what I mean by get your MVP done is, do not recommend that you start going into one piece and then cleaning up and then getting it beautiful and then going to the next piece. No, do the whole thing from intro to finish. And that's it. It doesn't matter if you can do it beautiful or not. What matters is you just gotta get it done in 1 month. Then you move on to the next stage. The next segment, the very first thing you're gonna do to start, and you gotta put calendars for all these. So, and then you gotta tell your students or your partner or whoever's leading, because if you have a partner, I'm assuming that you're the lead, because that you're the leader of the full partnership, because otherwise your partner would be here too. So unless Norma is partnering up with Koa and Katie is with the VP, then, and I don't think that's the case. So then if you need to tell your partner, let's get with the game. And in the contract, you will give this schedule that where it says that the second segment is going to start this day. And this day, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to process your choreo through a mock judging session. So you have your criteria from your competition that you're going to do, and you run your choreo as if it was like the day of the competition. And then when you see it, then you will see what needs to be fixed in terms of the choreo. You will see at this point, you will see if there's parts that are not musical. There are parts that are slower. There are parts that are too fast or too tight, or there are parts that are repetitive. There are parts that are boring, or parts that are too high and they never come down. And I'm not talking about the dancing. I'm talking about as a whole. Once you see the whole choreography danced, then you will see that this choreography as a choreography, when you process it through the judging thing, you will see how your choreography needs to get modified so that you can score in each one of the criteria. Okay? Do you guys understand this, what I'm saying? Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. So then now is when you're going to start adding your tricks and flares. So your choreo, you already build it, and now you're in your choreo, you were like, there's going to be a trick here, and there's going to be a flare here, and there's going to be this, and there's going to be that. This is where you're going to start in the second segment. You're going to start modifying your flares and your tricks so that it just becomes more more flashy or more elegant. And of course, your tricks and flares are going to be adding for you like more work, because you're going to have to work to get to do them correctly. So now this is going to, all these two things, like planning the tricks that you're gonna put in, and planning, and then looking at making an analysis, which was what I told you before, is closing that loop. If you you are let me see, who is participants? Let's see, hold on. BP, are you in software? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So the best approach that you guys can get is a Scrum approach. Scrum, like doing iterations every single time. This is going to be, you're going to have 4 iterations. So what do you do when you're done with one iteration? You get a meeting, and then you look at what worked and what didn't work, and then you're like, okay, next thing, right? You fix it, and then you adapt so that you can get you can get this done in a proper way, in a smart way, right? So at this point in the second segment, you close your first iteration, which was the first segment. You close the first one, then you get like your Scrum meeting, like your meeting with like with yourself or your people, and then this mock judging session, you can you can run it through like judges or a coach or whatever, or yourself. You can do it on your own, And then this is where you go, like, this is where we're gonna put in the tricks and the flares. But then also we need all the when you processed it to the judging, to the mock judging session, this is gonna give you like a new kind of like SWOT analysis. It's gonna tell you, oh, you know what? You're weak on the musicality. You're weak on technique. You're weak on genre technique. You're weak on this. And then that is going to give you a new set of like a new set of activities, right? And those activities are going, you already have the schedule. You already know that your practices are Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 to 10. I don't know, whatever, you know? So that's where you're gonna put, now where I'm gonna plan in my practice, I'm going to plan that I will rehearse, and then I'm gonna take the first 20 minutes to do, to practice this new flair. And you're gonna bring it, like you have it already, like ready to go. And then you know that now, because you need to work on your, I don't know, core strength, for example, or you need to work on your inversions, or like, or the girls need to work on their splits or whatever, I don't know, something, then you know that in the time that it takes for you guys to train, that's where you're gonna put those drills. And those drills cannot be in the time that you had set up for rehearsals. So that's the reason why at the very beginning, you have to set up these schedules and then block them in an actual schedule. You can share a Google Calendar with your people, where you block, the pink is the practice, the blue is a training, and the whatever extra sessions for coaching, or for, I don't know, whatever you guys want, yellow. But make sure that things are not supposed to just happen. You gotta create them. You gotta create the space for them to happen, and then you gather the people, and then you're like, and then this is what we're gonna do from this to this, right? And how do you know what is gonna happen? What you need to do? Well, you got that from your choreo through a mock judging session. And that's the reason why it's so important to get your MVP at the very end of the first segment. You can't wait until later. You got to do it right now. And then you plan your rehearsals, your coaching, your training sessions accordingly. And then you put them in the calendar. Then you review your contract, and you're like, okay, so last month we agreed that we were going to practice every Monday, and then we were going to work on training every Wednesday, and then we were going to work on, I don't know, whatever. Even if you have to have people lose weight, then, I mean, not everybody has to lose the same weight. So then you just gotta go like, you in your contract, you signed that you were gonna lose a pound per week. So, and I don't see and how are we gonna check that that's true, right? So we're gonna bring a scale, or I don't know, whatever, like everybody has to have their own contract. And then there has to be, you gotta review that contract and then see what happened last month, right? And then get to work on the new month, right? Commit again, and then do in the next iteration. So the next segment, this is one before the last. So this is right in the middle. You're right in the middle of your time. So let's say that you start right now. So this would be September, October. This would be in Halloween. In Halloween, you start, you finish your second segment, and you're gonna start in Halloween or November 1st, your third segment. So again, you're going to clean up whatever you did in the second month, and then you're gonna process it through a mock judging session again. And then this time you're going to push for higher difficulty level. Regardless of everything that is going to come up from the SWOT analysis that you're going to be making at the beginning of every section, you know, every team, every person, every dancer is different. So everybody has different weaknesses and different strengths. But this is where you, on top of whatever you got to clean up and then fix and work on, this is where you, whatever you have, you're going to make it, you're going to push for higher difficulty level. So if you have now splits, now you're going to try to have the splits after a turn. If you have a turns that are one turn, you're going to try to get them to do 2 turns. You're going to push on this month for everything harder. If a pattern was like this, you're going to try to have it like that. You're going to try to push that for, and I say push because this is, you're literally going to put that in just to push the range. And because you've already worked on the second month, you've already worked on your tricks and flares and all that fun stuff. And you already have your choreography. It's already finished. And you already cleaned up. You already worked on your weaknesses and all that stuff. So now you're gonna try to make it harder. And then again, how are you gonna make it harder? For instance, if something is just like this, then you're gonna try to get it like this, you know? How are you gonna do that? Well, if you cannot do it on your own, like if that's something that you've never done, then you need to hire somebody to help you with it. And then, you know, maybe you guys need to go to a special school together. I don't know, whatever, you know, and the same time that you had set up for rehearsals should work for you to be working on this. And the same time that you have set up for training needs to work for your extra training for each person. Each person has to have a different commitment. You cannot be dragging the whole team down. A student of yours or a dancer cannot be dragging the whole thing down just because he doesn't have the money, he doesn't have the time, he doesn't have the skill. If you don't have the skill, go get it on your own time. But when you come back to my rehearsal, you need to be able to do 2 spins. So how are you going to do that? I'm not really sure. I can give you options, but you need to come up with this because you signed a contract. So that's how, like, the attitude that everybody has to have. Everybody has to have an accountability mentality, that everybody has their own training on their own, and they have to be accountable for it. You got to hold them accountable. Even if it's just 2 people, even if it's 2 people, that just has to happen. And then again, you review your contract and then you get to work. What are you going to work on this time? Well, you're going to work on all this higher difficulty level things. So this is going to be your harder time. Your first and your third month are going to be the hardest. You're gonna want to cry. You're gonna quit. You're gonna want to get sick. You're gonna wonder why you're doing this. You're gonna be like, why am I killing myself this way? It's like, you know. But if you postpone all this to the last minute, you're going to hate yourself. So you don't want that. You want to have, this is your difficult moment, and it's fine as you enjoy it. And then the 4th segment, the final segment, it should last 3 weeks prior to the competition. I'd say 4 weeks, because the last week you're probably going to be worried about putting rhinestones in your, or changing the flights, or like anything last minute that other people came up with, or you're going to be performing. Actually, you're going to be performing to practice for your competition. So therefore, you need to not skip rehearsals, right? So that's the reason why, like I say, that at least 3 weeks, where all you're going to do is just, you're going to process your choreo through a mock judging session. So with this, in this step, you guys do not take it lightly. This is the most important step, that you close that loop, that you close that iteration, you save it, you watch it, you observe, you analyze, and then this is gonna give you a new set of activities to do. And now, in the third month, you came up with this crazy idea that you were gonna fly it, and then, you know, like you were gonna roll on the floor and then just come up, and then something, you know, fireworks were gonna come out. And then on the 4th month, you decide, okay, this is as much as I could do. I'm gonna keep it like this. You're not gonna push for something that you cannot do. If by this 4th month, 3 weeks before, there's something you cannot do, you're gonna take it out of the choreo. You do not want to work on something for later. This is the point. That's it. This is all you have. 3 weeks before the competition, you're not going to change anything in the choreo. Nothing. If at the most, what you're gonna do is bring something in that you already did prior, that you did in another choreography, or that you've done with somebody else or something. You're not gonna do something new. You're gonna do you're gonna go for the safe and clean. And now you're gonna like concentrate, like you're gonna bring it down. You're gonna settle down. You on the 3rd segment, you went up, you're pushing as much as you can do. And then on the 4th, you're gonna bring it down to what you can do safely and clean, and every single time you can do. Then again, you're gonna plan your rehearsals accordingly, your coaching, your training, and after every performance that you do a cleaning. You watch every time that you perform, and then do a cleaning. If you have a team, again, right after you guys perform, you got to send out notes and just be like, okay, we're gonna work on this and this and this and that, and by next Sunday when we get together, I want you to focus on like that turn that you did. Now I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you got to fix it. And we're not gonna do it in rehearsal. You got to do it on your own time, because on Wednesday, whenever we meet, you got to have it, because we're gonna now work together. We're not changing anything. We're just making everything solid and clean. And get to work these 3 weeks, perform, clean, perform, clean, perform, clean, and then go to whatever it is that you're going. So by this time, you're already done with all your training, and you're prepared and everything. And notice how at no point I mentioned anything about buying costumes, or you shouldn't be worried about that, because you should do that way in advance. Actually, in the 4th section, you should be performing in outfits, because anything that can go wrong. Actually, you should rehearse in outfits. I don't know if you saw in Sacramento when I danced with a big old skirt. That time, my outfit, I rehearsed with it 2 weeks before, and the skirt teared apart in the rehearsal. And then I had a show that night. So what I did is that I fixed the skirt, and then I changed the choreo for that performance. For just that performance was a show just for practice. And then right after that, I changed back the routine to where it was with a trick and the whole thing, and I changed the skirt. But had I waited until the last moment to rehearse, had I waited for the performance to rehearse, my dress would have teared apart in the performance. It would have been a disaster, you know? So then that's why you gotta do that in the fourth section. Practice with your costume and perform with your costume. And final advice, basically, it's the more you anticipate, and when I say anticipate, is like, seriously, anticipate that you might get sick. So if you might get sick, then take your vitamins from today on. If you might get in traffic, because where you live on Wednesdays, it gets whatever, then do whatever it takes to make sure that you're never stuck in traffic. Today, talk to your boss and just be like, is it possible that every Wednesday I can get off 10 minutes earlier and then I come in 10 minutes earlier? Like, work whatever needs to be worked on now. Anticipate anything that can happen. If your child, if your spouse, if your girlfriend, if your whatever, like, gets in the way, like, get a babysitter from today, like, already get a babysitter for every per rehearsal. Like, make sure that you never get something that unexpected, so anticipate, prepare, way in advance, put it all in a calendar, and take everything into account: money, health, the city that you live in. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Right now in Tijuana, there's a riot going on. There's something, I don't know, we don't know what's going on, but they're burning cars in the middle of the street. So it's like I don't know, like it's something with terrorism, or I don't know. But the thing is, like, because I already have my classes prepared and I already know what I'm going to teach, and I already told my students, then we're like prepared, and if, let's say, tomorrow we can't practice because I have a syllabus and I got to finish my syllabus, I'm going to do it online, but everybody has to get it. So we're not like, the fact that this is happening is not going to stop us, because we already prepared from a long time ago. Like, a long time ago, I told them what the schedule was for every single day of practice. So therefore, like, we just gotta make it happen, so we're prepared for whatever, so take everything into account. And the more you anticipate, the more you prepare, and the more you take into account, the more prepared you will be. And the easier it is going to be for you to be calm and collected, so that you can go and win that competition. And another advice is, don't copy people, because that's not going to get you to win. Don't exhaust yourself. Be smart by doing it this way. This is doing strategizing in a smart way. And ask for help. Don't try to do everything yourself, because it's just not going to work. We all get help. We all get coaching. Like, right now, I got, because I'm now working on this new piece that is going to be all tricks, all cabaret. And that's not what I do, right? So because I want to do that, I found some people on Instagram, and then instead of just copying them, which I could do because I'm a trained dancer and I'm a coach and then whatever, instead of that, I called them and then I asked them to coach me. And we all need coaches, because coaches will make it easier for us to, like, especially when we don't have a lot of time, but also it's because we want to save our bodies. We don't want to be like muscling things through. And a lot of times I see people hire me for coming in and cleaning our choreography. And then I'm not even kidding. It's like, my competition is in 3 days. Can you come and clean my choreo? I'm like, I come in and the whole thing is wrong. It's not about cleaning. It's just that I should have come in 4 months ago, and then I could have given them a plan, right? But in the last minute, you can't just, and that's one reason why, like, I don't understand when people like wait until the last minute to get a coach. For instance, like when I go to judge a competition and people are asking me to coach them right there before the competition, I'm like, your competition is tomorrow. You want to change things now? That's crazy. It's just not, it's not. So the more you anticipate, the The earlier you get everything, the more calm and collected and sure and ready to going when you're going to be. So, and last, value every part of the process, because I can tell you for experience, guys, competition can kill your spirit. Like if you just work, and then especially when you do things like in an erratic way, it can kill your spirit, and it's not worth it, you know? So it's better to just like be proud of yourself and just work smart, and then give it your all, but like give it your all in not in a working, just exhausting yourself way, but just like working smart, and then, you know, giving it your all in every section, and value every part of the process, because, you know, you may not be able to do this again. So we all saw what happened in when the pandemic, like we all realized that you know, we all valued the last time that we performed, the last time that we competed. We're like, because we don't know if that's going to happen again. There were so many people that after the pandemic, I mean, they died, you know, so many dancers died. Like my secretary died. And you know, so the last time that she went to a competition was that, you know, in the 2020, early 2020, and that was it. That was it. So imagine that you're just like worried about winning or not winning. You know, you just gotta do things smart and happy. Yeah, let me read the chat. Dice, me equivoco el cambio. Oh, dice, okay, I'm gonna read the whole thing. Katie says, that's so true. I experienced a lot of disorganization in my last team. Es muy cierto lo que comentas de los equipos. She's saying that Pam is saying that it's true what I'm talking about in teams. It's true. I know that. Katie says, does this apply to heats too when there's no choreo? Okay, very interesting question. Heats. If I was you, I would be preparing for heats and practicing for heats. Like, this is what, you know, back in the day, they had a competition in Puerto Rico where people were doing social dancing and then performance. And because you learn how the music is structured, then you practice the people that won, they practice 4 8 counts at a time. 4 8 counts, trick, 4 8 counts, trick, 4 8 counts, flare, 4 8 counts. And then they practiced it. And then that way, you know what you're all about. Now, heats, I find heats to be very difficult. Ideally, they're going to be very difficult if everybody in there is a good social dancer. What I've noticed is that that's not the case in a lot of times, but it's in your best interest to start rehearsing from early on and start rehearsing for that. Start like just putting in music with your partner and just being like, let's do this one, and then record yourself. And then have like a schedule where you guys do that. And then same thing, because heats are going to be judged in a certain way. So judge yourself every single time that you practice, and then learn to anticipate for the music changes, learn to anticipate for hits, learn to anticipate for hits. I would really strongly recommend that you focus on musicality. I don't know if you took my class in Sacramento, but I gave a class there and I have it online as well. BP took it, and I think you, BP, you can talk about how, like, when you work with musicality, then your anticipation of the music is like, it's just so much greater, right? That's what like I taught in that class. So heats are improvisation, but they're not improvised. Like, it's in your best interest to not improvise them, to know how to improvise, to know how to connect with your partner, to know how to give the right direction so that your partner knows what you're going to do next, and both of you guys are on the same page, and that has to be practiced. For heats, it depends. If you're an amazing social dancer, I would practice 2 months ahead. But if you're not amazing, I would start practicing right now. I would like start practicing right now. Like, for instance, for me, I think that if I was to perform, to go in a heat with Martin Gonzalez, I would practice 2 months. But if I was in a heat with this guy that I went to Sacramento with, I would practice like right now. And like, I would seriously go for like 3 times a week, going out social dancing with him. Because otherwise, when you go there and you guys don't know each other like the back of your hand, you're in disadvantage. So you really have to, it's a different animal, but you also have to prepare for all that. Thank you for that question. That was a very good one. Pam says, Gabby, thank you very much for the information. You have structured it in a very minutious, like in a very, defined way. I have to go, and then, but she says that she's writing everything down. And then Yami says that she got the change of time, the time change wrong. Yami, ¿qué hora es ahí? ¿Dónde vives?
En Bolivia.
Bolivia.
Hi.
¿Qué hora es qué hora es ahí
5 de
ahorita?
la tarde. 5
5
de la tarde.
Ah, ok. Entonces tú estás como a 3 horas más que yo. 3 horas más que yo. Todo se quedó aquí grabado. Ok, lo voy a tener todo grabado y se lo voy a mandar. Nada más, lo único es que está todo en inglés. ¿Tú entiendes inglés?
Sí.
Ah, perfecto. Dice Norma, dice, your information can be applied to all facets of, I know, right?
Yeah.
Seriously, this is the way I run most of my projects, because otherwise, if I don't plan way ahead, then I let life take over, and then you're always a victim, You're always the victim when life takes over. Like, when life happens to you, you're always going to be a victim of circumstances, of everything, And the more you anticipate, the more you, because there's a lot of things that we know that can happen. We already know, because we know ourselves, we know our dancers, we know our dance partners, we know our city, we know our studio, we know ourselves, our motivations, our energy levels, we know. Do you guys have any questions, anything that you guys want to ask, like about anything? What competitions would you like to compete in? See, exactly. You're reacting to situations rather than being prepared. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot to people. They'll be like, oh, well, I couldn't do, I came into this competition and I only rehearsed 3 days. And at least I got 5th place, but it's good, because I only rehearsed 3 times. You're like, and you spend $1,000 on this, like, that's ridiculous, no, that's not gonna, no, that's not good. So you gotta prepare and be accountable, for what it is. Yami, ¿tú en dónde vas a competir?
Dios mediante en el Eurozone, pero al año.
En un año. Ok, súper bien.
Era bien complicado antes el tema de ahorrar y todo para competir y viajar y el tema de visas por mi país. Entonces, ahora que ya se puede, estoy preparándome para el año. Lo que no sé es si entrar a pro o a semi-pro.
Pues si puedes, métete a semi-pro mejor. Y ahí quédate hasta que puedas. She's asking me that she doesn't know if she should compete in pro or semi-pro. And my advice is try to go in semi-pro and stay there until you can, as long as you can. Stay in rising star, stay in semi-pro, don't go pro, put that off as much as you can. There's no need to go for anything. You can just work yourself to that. Okay.
Gaby, perdón, hace un par de años yo estaba en un grupo en el que prácticamente yo no sabía que directamente nos inscribieron a pro, entonces hemos competido en pro y no sé si hay problemas para luego ir a semi-pro porque yo prefiero ir a semi-pro en solista, ¿no?
Le tienes que preguntar a Gabo. Así, directamente le tienes que preguntar, pero dile que tú vas sola ahora. O sea, tú no vas con ese grupo. Y así dile, explícaselo. Y el primer día, o sea, antes de que te empieces a ensayar y todo eso, habla con él y díselo. She's asking me about like something regarding, the regulations as if for pro and semi-pro, and I'm advising her that to just ask the promoter, like seriously, just ask. You don't want to assume anything, just ask and always explain the situation and always explain what her situation is, that back in the day she was submitted as a pro in a team. She was submitted into a competition and then they were submitted as pros. And now she wants to go semi-pro and she doesn't know if that's allowed. And I do believe that it should be fine. But the thing is that what you got to do is just go to the promoter, give him a call, send him a message, and, ask him, because it's his responsibility to explain to you what is right and what's wrong and what to expect. So always do that. That's the reason why, like, this was in the very first thing you do. Read the rules and ask as the promoters from the beginning. Koa, what's you look like very
Well, the thing is, like, in here, in this area, it's really hard to find somebody to even have the same mindset as you. Most people here, it's really hard to ask them to first compete, let alone ask them to try and win the competition with you. And I do want to try to submit at least maybe one in my lifetime, but I have no idea how to figure it out to find a partner with the same mindset.
Sometimes it's hard because they don't dare to have that mindset, because people are afraid to lose. People are afraid to commit to something where they might lose. Does that make sense? So they're like, they don't want to like aim for the stars. They don't want to be like, oh yeah, I want to win a competition, because they feel that if they don't win, they're going to disappoint themselves, So, and that's usually people like, that's the mentality. So that's why they don't have the mindset, because they haven't been exposed to this mindset. I'm pretty sure that for you guys, this was the first time that you heard this sort of like mentality, because people don't have this mentality, right? Have you heard this like paradigm?
Yeah, this is like the first time I've heard somebody talk about this in this way, but also like a psychological kind of from bird's eye overview of this is the way to approach this. And I think it's really, really important. I've been involved in teams where it's so disorganized that the costume malfunctioned or the payment and like a partner ghosted. And no matter how good of a dancer you are, if you don't have that mindset, you're going to lose. You're going to encounter situations that are unexpected. So I just wanted to say thank you. This is so important, but it's so good to have someone who's like, you need commitment, because it's so much more than just being a good dancer.
Yeah, definitely. What team were you, did you compete with?
I did not come. We were supposed to go to, it's with Anthony Blanco. It was supposed to be a heat, but I got sick. So I just did a performance team with them afterward, but it was very.
Anthony, is he the guy who used to be in Majesty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Separated and had his own
Okay.
company.
Yeah, it's like, that's another thing, guys, like, if you're a student, you should probably just go, if you're gonna be doing pro-ams, you shouldn't go with somebody who's not a competitor, because they're gonna be stressed themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to compete, So if you, that's one thing, is the same thing that I tell people who hire coaches or choreographers that are performers. I'm like, and this happened to me like a couple of times, that people were upset because I gave them bad notes. And they will come back to me. Like there was a time where like this was very memorable for me. It wasn't the World Latin Dance Cup. And then this couple from Spain, they got a very nice outfit, and their footwork was really good, but their technique was awful. And their choreography was just very, very, very lazy, it was just not a competition choreo. And then they got really upset at me, and then they came up to me, and then the girl started crying, literally like crying. And then she's like, how dare you give me this low score? And I'm like, well, your feet are all over the place and your choreo is lame. Your choreo is just not competition choreo. And she said, oh, but I've been trained by Adolfo Indacochea. And I'm like, yeah, but Adolfo Indacochea is not a competitor or a coach for competition, So, I mean, he's an amazing performer and an amazing social dancer or whatever, but like competition is a different beast. It's a completely different beast. And for all of you guys who want to do, like, if you guys want to do a team or like a partner or whatever, like if you guys want to, like, I'm going to have a program. I think I'm going to put it together like in this couple of days, and I'll let you guys know, where I can give you guys contracts, like for your partners or for your teams or for your, and then I can give you guys, like, let's say that you put together a partnership or a team, right? I can talk to your team and just be like, listen, this is how you guys got to commit. So, because this kind of like motivational speech is going to be like putting everybody in the right perspective. And then you guys are not going to waste money, and you guys are not going to waste time, and not going to get hurt in your body, especially. And then, you're not going to be just like heartbroken also, because you're going to do it in the right way. And then you don't have to convince them. I can do that for you. I don't know. Like, I posted yesterday a video that somebody took of me talking to my students. And then I was talking to this 9-year-old, and I was like, if you keep talking, I'm going to put you in the corner. And then they recorded it. And I'm like, damn, I'm very like strict, but it works. So like, I can do that for you guys. Like if you want, like, I'm going to put this program together. And if you guys want to take it, that's going to be the first part of it. So like, this program should be 4 segments, same thing, in which I help you like in all these areas. Like I go let's say that we do it every month or every 2 weeks. And then I see what you need to change. I talk to your students or your partner, and then get you guys to commit to each other and then to write a contract. Maybe it's you, the one who needs the the commitment, you know, and I can work with you guys on that. I'll let you guys know because I don't have the details finalized, but I should put it together like within this 2 days and I'll send them to you. BP, I know that you and I have already thought about working together. So and like I think that we can pick a dancer from there, from where you live, because people there are very intelligent and smart, like in terms of just like they're structured. And if they're not good, if they don't commit, it's because people are not used to it. They're used to people who are just dancing and dancing and dancing and dancing, you know. But the fact that, for instance, in San Francisco, there is companies like John Narvaez company, that helps a lot because people are used to working under a whip, you know. So, and then the fact that so you have your two things in the Bay Area that are good for you, for both of you guys, for COA and for BP. The good two things is that you have Salsa Mania, and that has already like established a way to work towards your goals. That is not, it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be cheap. So then that has been already established. And then also the fact that a lot of people are in tech, that helps a lot because then people in tech know how to work and then study and then just analyze and then just, they don't believe that they don't have a fixed mentality. They have a growth mentality of like everything can be done if broken down properly and then put together properly with patience and like cleanliness. So it's just like, I think is there in San Francisco is like the best place to work for competition because you have the most important things, which are those. I mean, when we're talking about the Mexicans are like super talented. They're just talented because they've been working since they were 2 and they were rehearsing 7 hours a day because rent here is $100. So when you live in Oaxaca and your parents pay $100 for rent, you don't need to work. You don't need to do anything. All you can do, if you want to dance all day, you're good, you know? And classes are $3 and people dance on the street. And it's just, you know, we can't compare to them. So we gotta, but there's a way to win competitions without that, you know? And that is going to be with a good strategy. And I've seen it happen over and over. People on the East Coast do it because they have a good strategy. You know, they work hard and they have a good strategy. So then, because they know that all this needs work, money, and then strategy, and not just emotion and not just talent. You know, talent is completely overrated, 100%, because you'll have so many people that are super talented and they're not going to win because they're disorganized. So then, you know, but well, then I guess this is it, guys. Do you have any more last questions, or should I just wrap this up and then send you the recording? What do you think about this conference?
It was really great. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and how everything is, because it's a common issue and nobody really spoke much about it. Even if you being professional team before, they just assume that we don't work hard enough and trying to push harder, and people would just hate each other from there and there. And it's a lot of turmoil between the thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like people think different things. We don't see things, and I know that because it's not that I asked them, but I see it. I've been a judge for many years, and I see that that's the fact, that's what's going on, you know, that people assume the wrong things. So that's the reason why I wanted to come up with this, and then just, you know, I'm probably going to do like little segments of this and then post them, but I just don't have a lot of time. But I'm gonna try to at least have my media team take some of this and then just start like posting it out and breaking it down so that more people can know how to properly rehearse and then practice and they do their strategy, because otherwise we're just wasting time and money and health. This, and you know, thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Not a lot of people were able to make it, so thank you for making it. Thank you. See you guys. I'll send you the recording. Thank you. Bye bye. Hey, say thanks, Gary, for this session. To be honest, this is my first ever thought about competing possibly. Yes, exactly. Eye opener. Eye opener is that's what I was looking for. First, very good first step. Thank you so much, you guys. See you soon, and then we'll talk later, and talk to you, VP, soon. I'll send you a message.
Thanks, Gabby. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.